Oh, hello. Oh, so serious. Yes, this might like. I was on the old Facebook telling Facebook people that I'm going live, and then I dare you to join me on the YouTube page, and join our community in this ongoing conversation of the global paradigm shift and how to be the change. Um, it's been a really interesting sort of 24 hours. I mean, it's been an interesting life anyway. Um, but it's always a pleasure to see you guys here. And thank you so much, those of you who commented and showed up yesterday for my emotion storm processing. It's, I just have such appreciation and love for you guys, like hardcore. So, what's the title of the share? Something about how to be the change. And it's ultimately how Alta Love as a brand, as a movement, as a mish from Hot Love Vibrashe has come to make manifest in the world, and how it's been intuitively guided, and it's truly coming from this place of an inner, and very much an expression. Way back when I had my spiritual awakenings when I was 19 and I was at the University of British Columbia, and I remember watching Roger and me during one of our tutorials, or tutorials, like, seminars when you're in your classes. And I was part of this Canadian Scholar program. Hi guys, hi. I was in this Canadian Scholar program, and we were learning about all of these severe issues in the world. 9/11 had just happened, and I remember standing up in front of like 100 other students and being like, well, clearly there needs to be a paradigm shift. And everybody laughed at me, like, get real, like, be serious. Like, people aren't going to change. And like almost 20 years later, here we are on the precipice of a monumental change in the world, whether people are aware of it, whether people want it, whether people are tuned into it or not. The world is changing as we know it in a massive way. And I think sometimes where people get confused about my business and the business model, it's not like a kind of one of those coaching things. It's to me anyway, in my heart space, it's a movement. It's something that we're all a part of, again, whether we're aware of it or not. This is something very divine and cosmic, and aligned with the universe as far as the story of Earth goes, and the humanity on planet Earth. So, and I know that you guys that join me here on the regular, that you're vibing that, and you're aware of that, and you feel it in your bones, in your beingness. And many of you have been on a very similar sort of timeline projection as far as your awareness of transformation, and your awareness of being on a truly guided path, intuitively guided path. And ultimately, what that means from a different perspective is that nothing is obvious. It's not linear, it's not logical, it's intuitive. It comes from an intuitive awareness beyond the veil, right? And this is something that I think people really rather invested in the 3D paradigm, and with a sort of knowing about how the world works, that they miss the point a little bit. And to me, feeling this sort of surge of change in our grasp, sort of thing, in our beingness. We're right on the edge, and the astrologers are talking about 2020 astrology. We have the world leadership that is more and more obviously to more and more people corrupted. That we give our power to these leaders that really don't have our best interests at heart, because they don't even really have their own best interest at heart. Let's be honest. If you're selling out to corporate greed, you're not invested in humanity. Our humanity ultimately in the paradigm shift comes from a connection to earth and a connection to the well-being of this planet, which is why I think a lot of us that resonate with starseed or light worker community, there's this sort of innate knowing that we responded to a call from this planet, and we're here in service to the whole of humanity. And that might seem like, oh, yeah, okay. And yet we here know that that is just the truth of it, right? So, and sometimes in truth, part of my excitement just comes from so many years of doing these shares and learning all this stuff and putting myself out there, regardless of not being ready or regardless of not feeling like I have any right to speak my truth, just fucking doing it because I couldn't not. And all these years later, there's people from different pockets of the world showing up on this YouTube channel, engaging in conversation, and I can feel the resonant connection. I can feel that kind of soul tribe alignment coming into fruition. And to me, having really pioneered this path from my heart, this is why it is miraculous. Just putting out a call on the internet in this sort of blind voidal space of intuition that the large majority of my kind of physical people that have come in and out of my life have never quite understood, in essence, because they're not necessarily connected to intuition. And ultimately, invested and blinded by the fear of the world, right? Hence the book, The Fearless Life Guide. And how do we transform fear from within the self that ultimately is creating the projection of the world that we see, and understanding that the fear is harbored in the beingness that we are through ages of indoctrination, through ages of blindness and corruption and darkness. Ultimately, it comes, in my awareness anyway, it's very much about the Earth's trajectory in this universe, and being in parts of this universal void that are dark, that vibrate on a certain frequency. And now we are, as a union self, coming into alignment with the, what am I hearing, something about the galactic center or whatever, and that is like the center point of the infinity symbol, and it's in alignment with the different stargates and the star systems, hence being bombarded with the solar flare energy, and why all of these corrupted aspects are coming to the fore, why we're seeing this false leadership, why people are starting to awaken, why more and more people are having these spontaneous spiritual awakenings. It's because the world is changing, and whether we want it to or not, this paradigm shift is well and fully in full swing. So I want to talk about, because I just did the share on Facebook, and I want to talk to you guys about the Be the Change online courses, and in a way, I guess the polarity of my own journey and all the different kind of information there is about all the different things. And for me, having been on this journey for a while, the clarity that one can offer, in essence, to people in different phases of their spiritual awakening journey, and the increasing kind of suffering patterns that we're facing as a humanity, and how to be the change. More and more people are talking about, like, you have to be the change, stop pointing fingers, and stop focusing on all of the issues and all the problems in the world. Indeed, that is not what is helpful necessarily, although I'm not putting us down, because we can all get triggered by that stuff. But to me, being the change is about living in alignment. And the biofeedback over these many, many years in my journey, um, has been about, which has become the pillars of All to Love as a movement, is sustainability, spirituality, and freedom. I would say our spiritual connection, just connection, being connected to the source, your heart, essentially, feeling, it's all there in the feelings. Getting to know your feeling body, getting to know your emotional body, that is really at the heart of sustainability and freedom. Once you truly vibrate the cosmos clears the path. That's a an age sutra from Yogi Bhajan. Start and the pressure will be off. So those of you also feeling that surge of, oh, I have to share, I have to do more, I have to put yourself out there, just do it. Start and the pressure will be off. It's the same for me on the daily basis as I continue to work through and transform underlying fears, as my biofeedback, is coming back to me to purge, essentially, to heal, to release these base tone frequencies of fear, because we do create our reality ultimately, right? So ultimately, when we start to see those fears coming into our reality, that's an opportunity to transform them and to keep rising. Hence, I can share the polarity. Yesterday, I was crying by the willow tree, and y'all were holding space for me, and I, being triggered by homelessness in the streets and different aspects of things going on in my own reality with the banking system, and different things like that, where I'm well practiced now at holding space for myself, and I'm fearlessness enough to share the process with you, to be vulnerable, to recognize that I can show up and be a shiny beacon. And then the swing polarity of that is that I can also show you my vulnerability in a transformational process that I believe at this point is still ongoing, until I decide to leave leave this body on earth, right? Um, so, in truth, the clarity that comes are these courses, these digital courses that I created, and Katie definitely helped bring them into manifestation as the zero waste pioneer. But we can live in alignment and in service to the whole by making practical changes. Because I think sometimes all the spiritual stuff can get lost on people. It can feel like, just and also I'm highly aware of the false light and spiritual distortion as well, as far as our world of privilege and greed, wanting to talk about all these lovely spiritual ideals, but then when it comes right down to it, people don't practice it. They're still living in judgment. They live in judgment of wealthy people, they live in judgment of poor people, and they kind of just they live in their little boxes or their little kind of spiritual circles in relatively codependent relationships, where they're not actually fundamentally shifting their energetic set point. They're not fundamentally shifting their vibration. And a lot of people, I'm coming to learn, are sort of indoctrinated to believe that everyone should just do what they tell them to do, or everyone should just bow at their feet and massage their egos ultimately. Which is where, again, I feel that a lot of my journey, people have wildly misunderstood me. And like I, for much of my life, assumed that everybody wanted the best for everybody else, and everyone saw the divine in everyone. I feel that other people do the same. They project their own judgment and their own belief systems onto one another, right? So in pioneering, and ultimately this is the business, this is a mission, yes, and this is also, in the world of economy, this is a business. This is my life. This is my life's work. This isn't like I'm thinking about deep things and isn't that cool, or like this is a fun little hobby for me, outside of my full-time work. This is my business. This is my full-time work. This is a full-time investment in myself and the totality of humanity, to make the leap into love, to make the leap into higher vibrations, so that we can live in a more harmonious world, where a few people, instead of this weird construct of like a few people living in power, essentially stealing all the world's resources to dominate the masses and essentially oppress the masses as well, which in my intuitive awareness, even the privileged, even the wealthy, are actually oppressed by the system. So we have that polarity of wealth and poverty, but they're actually two sides of the same coin. We have the middle class America judging poor people, and poor people judging or whatever, and having this sort of deep level of contempt in the world ultimately. And that is harbored in our heart. Resentment and contempt and hatred is harbored in the heart of humanity, and that is ultimately what we're healing. So again, how to be the change? Again, it's like, okay, live in alignment. And then when you look at all of the issues in the world, to me, living more sustainably, that's a big step. And the reason Katie and I decided to call it Zenful Zero Waste is that for empaths especially, we can get really overwhelmed by fuck, all this suffering and all these changes I need to make, and I have to do it this way and it has to be done like that. Well, that also doesn't serve us. We have to ultimately keep transforming those emotions of overwhelm, those emotions of taking on all the burdens of the world, again, because it's our world. It's the projection of the world that we've already made manifest. So how do we shape shift that manifest world? We have to keep doing this inner work, and at the same time take action where we're guided to take action. Hence, Alta Love as a brand, Alta Love as a movement it's continued to intuitively make manifest en flow via my own biofeedback, because I've been on this manifestation journey essentially since I was 15 or 16 years old. I've had an awareness of mind over matter and all of this stuff, and then had very, very powerful spiritual awakenings when I was 19, which set me on this just, I guess, kind of radical journey. And even, my yoga path, it wasn't because I thought it was cool to be a yoga teacher. It was out of profound suffering. And yoga was guided to me to help me heal and become clear so that I could truly step into my divine work, which this is it. Hi guys. I love you all so much. Star Heart Love Vibrashe. Okay, so the Be a Change online courses, which at this point, again, as I talk about my business, this is why, and as I continue to make these leaps, I'm so sort of powerfully charged with putting it out there in my integrity, and at the same time asking you guys to buy intuitive readings, buy the course, share Alta Love material on Facebook, on Instagram, tag Alta Love, share these YouTube posts on your profiles to help the movement grow. Because for me, going the distance with Alta Love is part of being able to move that needle, is part of being able to effectively shift the vibrational base tone of the planet. So for me, it's becoming more and more clear to focus on it. At the same time, just in a really basic way, I need help. I need your guys' help. I need your guys' support. And when you can, and I would never, I don't come from it of like what I can get from you guys for my own greedy endeavoring. It's literally just so I can keep ticking over, and so I can keep making those changes that will continue to help me be the creator that I'm meant to be, so that we can keep reflecting back that creatorship to one another. So really today was about like sharing the how to be the change and the online courses. So they're 8-week online courses, and they're really practical. It's really simple changes that you can make in your home, for example. So in the zero waste course, Katie basically just goes through each room in the house, the kitchen, the bathroom. We talk about holidays. We talk about going to festivals and holidays and stuff like that. And she really does live it. She lives it more, certainly, if I'm just being honest, than I do, because it was really coming from her heart space when Alta Love took us to Bali back in 2017, and she saw the plastic crisis in front of her eyes. By every time we'd go in the ocean, you can't help but go swimming and be knocked about by plastic and cookie wrappers, and the beaches are essentially littered with our global waste, right? And I have no doubt there are beautiful movements all over the world doing wonderful things to also help clean up the oceans and make these changes. Within this community, again, it's like spreading the word. And also what I've done is create little, like, so if you can't afford 144 pounds to buy one course, you can buy them week by week for just 22 pounds. So if you wanted to just go zero waste, say in your bathroom, you could just buy the bathroom section. If you just want access to, like, so in Spirituality Simplified, which is my discernment and deduction of all the kind of spiritual awarenesses I have, and all this long journey of transformation. Spirituality simplified is, again, like, how have I simplified all of these ancient practices and the ancient wisdom into my beingness, right? Into the center of thyself, precisely. And that can be helpful for people. So even if it's not you guys, because I feel often like I'm speaking to the converted, I feel like you guys are very much in your alignment and very much in your integrity, but maybe you want to buy a course for a friend who wants to go zero waste, or someone who's newly awakening. Like, why don't you help them fast track their spiritual journey and get them spirituality simplified? Another thing that you can do is also, if you've got some extra cash to splash for all to love, obviously you can make donations, which I'm always super grateful for. Thank you guys so much. Um, because again, the donations over these last few months have actually really helped me keep showing up and helped me have the courage to continue to take certain leaps in my life. You could buy all four. So if you randomly have a spare £500 in your bank account, you could buy all four courses. I would deliver 3 to you. So I would give you the Zenful Zero Waste, All to Vegan Love, and Spirituality Simplified. And then you would be one of the first to receive Unplug for Freedom. And all of them, again, why I'm so proud of them is like, they're practical, where sometimes I think that some of this other stuff isn't as tangible. And the Be the Change courses are helping to demystify the paradigm shift and just say, well, live in alignment, but also there are practical changes that you can make, that one will improve your life, one will, and then two will assist the paradigm shift, and three will help you to be the change. And then just by being the change, you then radiate that change to others, right? And especially because I'm increasingly seeing the kind of pointing of fingers and like, everyone has to da, 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 da. And I'm like, well, we have to be really aware that the fighting energy can often just perpetuate more fighting. That the fear energy just perpetuates more fear. So to me, it's like, let's jump into aligning one another with living in what the world is asking of us, which again is part of the Be the Change. So how do we shapeshift our consumption patterns? That's the Zero Waste, the Vegan Love, and the Unplug for Freedom. In a way, I sort of feel like the Unplug for Freedom course is possibly going to be one of the most effective ones for people transforming their lives. And that's the one that I'm going into production for, and part of this surge of energy of like, desiring assistance from all y'all to continue to help move the Alta Love forward. It's that it's never it's never really been about me necessarily. It's always been about this vision and this mission, and I'm getting excited about it. I'm getting excited. I know that I'm being guided to Morocco. I'm not being guided to host yoga retreats anymore. I'm not being guided to do even one-to-one necessarily coaching, although I am available for people if they want to have chat time with me. But it really is these courses and helping people transition to a more sustainable lifestyle, helping people transition to feel and be connected in a loving way so that they can continue to transform their lives and live that kind of hero's journey, and then go vegan. And I've just been a lifelong veggie vegan, and more people are. This movement is sort of taking off, and so I would say anyway, I'm quite a good person. Plus, I'm not judgy, and I've been through all that. So it's like, it's a really lighthearted approach to veganism. And actually, one of you guys who I met online came to the UK to help and assist at a time that I was not sure how I was going to manage creating the vegan course. And then Heath came from Montana and showed up as a case study as a totally non-vegan with a few different like health issues. And going vegan actually helped clear up those health issues. And then he offered his service to be part of the course as a case study to kind of be really honest about like having gut issues, like when you're eating more beans and lentils and nuts and stuff like that, and all of that. So miraculous things have continuously shown up for me, and I'm really feeling like we're at the precipice of some pretty dynamic change. My battery is gonna die, you guys. I've been going this morning since about 2 in the morning. I've shared on Instagram and Facebook as well. Sharing is caring. Exactly. It really, really is. And I appreciate it. And those of you know who you are, like, you show up and you share, and I really respect that, because I'm aware in part of my past cycles where I was still working through some of my base tones around unworthiness, is that I attract people that they liked it and they kind of wanted stuff from me, but they never shared, or they never, and then that would biofeedback, like, they were actually embarrassed. They were embarrassed about their spirituality. They were um embarrassed about uh, being spiritual, and that's not where I'm at all. Like, I'm not embarrassed about the person I am. I'm not shameful about the things that I have to sell, or share with the world, or express. And ultimately, like, I don't want anything from you guys. I just want to talk and chit chat. Well, that's fine for me. This is part of it. Like, I have to express where I'm coming from in any given moment and be true to myself, right? and and in fairness, like, there's things that I have to share, and there's things that I have to sell, and I'm working to continue to offer that to the world, to be the guinea pig for others to practice unconditional love. And a lot of you guys do, um I think, align with that. You know what unconditional love is. That's what you feel here, and that's why you gravitate to this, is that I really ultimately have a sense of unconditional love for the entirety of the planet, humanity, and the cosmos itself. And that's part of how we resonate, is that we don't align with the greed and the materiality of capitalism necessarily. We don't align with trying to get more from each other. I suppose I am just being really real about where I'm at with my business and the mission itself, and to continue to thrive in the world, right? And I ultimately, part of the share in the last few days is that we are still living in this economy, and part of shape shifting the economy is to start to spend our money in different places. And so I ask of you guys to support financially, and I'm not ashamed of talking about that or asking that, because I do see belief systems in different pockets of the world who are doing wonderful things, that sort of think that money is bad. Or certainly I've encountered worlds of privilege, where people can sit in privilege with pensions and lots of money and lucrative businesses and property that they inherited from family and what have you, or living off of the system, while at the same breath they poo-poo the system, and they tear down people with money. And I think, well, that's not necessarily useful. And I've not ever been driven by greed. I've not ever been driven by money. At the same time, as I continue to take these leaps, I do openly and honestly, and with a sense of humility and compassion, want to keep this going with a sense of integrity. And that means sharing the Be the Change online courses, for me for it to happen really organically, for these messages to be spread out, and for Ultra Love to grow organically just through people's desire to share. And if there isn't any cash to splash, that's okay. I still want you to be here. I appreciate you guys just showing up here. That means everything to me. At the same time, if you feel inspired to do more, share some videos, send in a fiver, every little counts. I'm sure that's like a slogan for some corporation, but it does. And then I have to respect the amount of work that I've done over these certainly over the last year with the courses, but over these last few years, the amount of work and leaps and commitment I've had to take to publish a book, and um, and to create these online courses, and the value that I see in them, as far as yet everyone kind of proclaiming it, and yet these little changes that we make can absolutely make the difference. And sometimes I just feel like you want to make people feel good about it. I don't want to make people feel bad about the fact they're not veggie. I don't want to make people feel bad about the fact that they're not aware that there's some serious issues, like certainly with spiritual awakening, it can be quite a harsh feedback to suddenly go, oh my God, I sold my soul, or like, oh my God, I've been working in a way that is actually oppressing people in different parts of the world. But with All to Love, it's like, okay, well, there's these simple changes you can make. And I know how much I've invested in doing different courses and things like that. And I really truly believe, plus I've used sacred numerology, obviously. So you can buy just 1 week for £22. You can buy the whole course for £144, or you can buy all four for £444. And then all of the intuitive readings, that's all sacred numerology as well. So so yeah, it's all totally shifting. And again, it's really what I want to say, it's just practical. And I think that's part of the reason I'm so proud of it, is like all of this, like, what is life, and like emotions, and feeling like an alien on this planet, and thinking people care, and people just putting me down, or shunning me, or laughing at me, or gossiping about me, or telling me, who the hell do you think you are to talk in this way, or to run away from me, or to whatever. And then I'm getting to this place of increasing sense of freedom, where I'm like, oh my God, I have these beautiful courses, which I'm proud of. And there's still this like cringeworthiness in me of like, but starting to step into this sense of like, I'm proud of All to Love. I'm proud of what I've managed to create with very, very little financial support, or little support from people that I thought did support me. And then, really they were embarrassed of it, or they didn't really align with it, or they were whatever. And that's all starting to shift. And ultimately I've got these tickets booked to go to Morocco, and it'd be really useful to make some sales over these next few days. So the Be the Change online courses, you've got Sinful Zero Waste, which is Katie Finch. It's really simple. Like I said, it's just each week focuses on a different part of the house. So if you're wanting to know more about going zero waste in your kitchen, you can just buy the kitchen week, right? And then Spirituality Simplified, I would say, is probably the most effective for people who are undergoing spiritual awakening and who might be quite new in that process. So that's a course that can be really useful. And or any of you guys who just want access to a certain week, we can break down each week for you. You can message me and ask me about each week and what I cover in the different weeks. Obviously, I include meditations, and I include yoga practices as well. A lot of it is content that I've created over the years, and the majority of it is filmed in Bali. And I obviously have quite long interviews with Thomas J. and or Thomas Brown rather, and Sasha Stone from New Earth. He's the one vocalizing and speaking up about the 5G stuff, and then also Vegan Love. And so for any of you guys who aren't vegan yet, if you're wanting to get a little bit more insight into a vegan life and my perspective about food, which I did a big share about food yesterday, obviously, so you could watch that. And if that intrigues you, and or if you know people who want to go vegan, it might be a nice gift for them. And again, you can just buy 1 or 2 weeks if £144 is too much for you, or you can always just talk to me about it. It's not, I'm here. I'm a human, and you can talk to me about what you're able to invest, sort of thing, versus just thinking that it's like, if you can't afford the full rate, then I can't have it. But I'm willing to share. That's always part of the thing. The part of the title turn of the paradigm shift are people like us being willing to receive. That's probably The biggest shift, which a lot of people probably don't quite understand, is like I'm allowed to make money and not struggle and just be constantly surviving or constantly on this like right. Like I've spent I've given everything I have to create this brand, which is born out of my heart via the fucking cosmic connection of my own paradigm shift. And now I'm stepping into this place of going, I need help. I need people to buy the stuff. And I don't want to do it in any kind of conventional way. I want to do it organically. I want it to be miraculous because my whole life has been miraculous. So, oh, thank you. Thank you, Divine Sight. And Divine Sight, everyone. We have a moderator on Ultra Love TV now, which you know we've been feeling out together, Jamie Ray and I, discussing it. So I felt it was useful to have a little support here, just to keep the shares clean, to keep the energy clean here, you guys, right? Because we know that we get the troll energy sometimes, which can sort of like disrupt. Yeah, you know, the good vibrashe, the hot love vibrashe. So yeah, it's feeling real. It's feeling like wowzers, holy shazbud, it's all happening, you guys. Okay, so yeah, that's the Be the Change courses. It's all come from the heart, and they're there and they're available to buy, and you can buy them from £22 to £444, and I'm asking for some help right now, ultimately. So if you guys want to go buy a book, if you, and one of you I think did something quite clever when I was at this point last or 2 months ago in August, and I kind of put a shout out being like, oh my god, my car is going to cost a lot more money to fix to get me back to England. And there was quite a nice surge of you guys who sent donations. And I get it. Like sometimes it doesn't really align just sending money to somebody. Although in fairness, like there's a lot of free content here, which warrants some donation to keep the free content coming. Oh no, I have 1% left on my computer, you guys. But what you can do is send a heftier donation than what the book would cost. So one of you guys sent in a donation for, I think, £44, 44 cents, and I sent you a book. So it's more than what the book costs on Amazon, for example, but the donation at that moment helped me out. And then when I got back to England, I sent you a copy of the book. So if you don't want to just send a donation for like nothing, you can send a donation and I'll send you a copy of the book. I'll sign it as well. And I usually give you guys a free meditation CD that I created with a friend of mine many years ago called Intimations, which has got a didgeridoo background. So there's lots of different ways to support the movement. You can book your intuitive readings. You can book perspective calls with me. You can buy the Be the Change online courses. But today specifically, I felt this real powerful surge to kind of explain the depth of where this business comes for me. And it's not necessarily a traditional business like how other people do business and where other people are coming from. This is a business ultimately about the paradigm shift and helping to move the needle in people's actions, you know, how people are taking action in being the change they wish to see, which for most of us, I would say, who are aware and who are awake, sustainability, spirituality, and freedom are huge pillars of the paradigm shift for us to live in alignment with the planet so that we're not raping the planet and stealing the resources, and to live in freedom, to live in fearlessness,